Salutations, everyone, and welcome to another episode of PTV FC. I'm your host, Louie Pasculli, along with my amazing panel of Jimmy Bliss and Ryan Johnston. Boys, how are you doing on Premier Match Day 26?
I'm doing great, Louie. Really excited to be here, be out of quarantine, and get back and talk some soccer with you guys.
Yeah, just like Ryan said, very excited to be here. Should be a very good show. And just before we start, happy birthday, Louie. Hope it's a good one.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'm happy to be able to spend the birthday here talking about soccer. So, we got a little bit to get into. Last week, we saw a pretty interesting Premier League matchup with Tottenham adding another loss to their loss column. Man City came away with a win per usual, as they've been doing really all season, and Manchester United was able to win easily. So this weekend is shaping up to be equally as interesting. We have 4 games today and 5 games tomorrow at the time of recording this episode. I believe Man City game is finished. I'll have to check to see what happened in that one. But we have, like I said, West Ham versus Manchester City, Man United versus Chelsea. I have to ask you guys, what games are you most looking forward to this week?
I'll start this one off. So I think that the biggest game of this weekend is going to be Manchester United versus Chelsea. I know back in the day, probably like 10, 15 years ago, they used to call these matchups Super Sunday matchups. 2 Big Six teams going against each other toe to toe, especially 2 teams of these caliber with Manchester United and Chelsea. And so I just want to highlight a little bit of Chelsea real quick. They are unbeaten in the last 9 games across all competitions under Thomas Tuchel, and he's really rejuvenated this team. He's been fantastic. He's been exactly what they need. He's brought his 3-4-3 system to Chelsea, and they've been incredibly difficult to beat. It's very similar to the 3-4-3 that Chelsea played under Antonio Conte, which they won the league with, they won an FA Cup with. So I feel like a 3-4-3 does fit Chelsea the best, as we saw between Conte and between Tuchel as of right now. But also coming off a very impressive win against Atletico Madrid, who are the leaders right now in Spain. A lot of people thought that Atletico Madrid would win this tie, would win it pretty easily, given that they are leading La Liga, and Chelsea just hired a new manager, so they're not really as fundamentally sound as a team like Atletico Madrid is, who've had Simeone for what feels like forever. But I do want to also look at Manchester United. They're also unbeaten in their last 8 games across all comps, with their only loss coming to Sheffield United, which is a crazy loss to the last place team in the league. And they've been almost unbeatable during the second half of the season. Bruno Fernandes has been nothing short of sensational. He's my player of the league thus far. I think that Marcus Rashford's been great. Edison Cavani's been firing on all cylinders as well. The defense has really stepped up too. So I just think that this is going to be a huge, huge game for both teams, especially moving into top 4 implications as Man United comes into this game in second and Chelsea's in 5th. And Chelsea hasn't beaten Man U in the league since November of 2017, so they're due for a win. But I don't think this is quite the time for them to beat Man United. I think that Man United's going to come out of this on top. I think they're favorites for a reason, and I do think that Manchester City is going to win this time tomorrow by a score of 2-1.
Jimmy, I know you were mad after that Sheffield United loss earlier this season, but I'm gonna admit my bias here. I'm gonna go with Arsenal versus Leicester. Okay, so I'll be the first to admit that Arsenal hasn't been the most consistent team as of late. They looked pretty dominant against Leeds a few weeks ago in a 4-2 win, and Aubameyang had his first hat trick in the entirety of his Premier League career. And it was a great performance because they lost the previous 2 weeks. And then they come out and they lose 1-0 to Man City. And honestly, I'm not very discouraged by that result. Losing 1-0 against Man City this year, not too bad in my opinion. It wasn't the most convincing performance from Arsenal. They didn't have a whole lot of chances. But to be honest, City only had 3 shots on target. Like, it wasn't like they just went out there and straight up dominated. It wasn't the best game from either squad. And I'll take that against City. I know it may be a little discouraging because we lost, and I'm like, okay, not that bad, but they're just that good. And then they come out this week in the Europa League. They get 3-2 win in the second leg against Benfica, which put them into the round of 16 in the Europa League. And Benfica's a solid squad, so I'm really looking up on this Arsenal form. I think Aubameyang has looked a lot better. He's had 5 goals in 4 games, which was unheard of earlier this season. He went a really long time scoreless. And, Bukayo Saka and Kieran Tierney are both looking great. And if Arsenal's on form on the day, like they were against Leeds or Benfica in the second leg, it was a close one, but they pulled out the win. I think they could cause some real problems for Leicester. And on the flip side, we know how good Leicester's been this season. I mean, they're third in the league and they're level on points with Man U for second. They're only behind on goal difference, and they just smacked around Liverpool 3-1 last weekend, which is kind of becoming a theme for various squads throughout the Premier League with Liverpool this season. But they beat Chelsea, they beat Tottenham, and they beat Man City earlier this season. They handed Man City one of their only losses throughout the year. Jamie Vardy leading the way with 12 goals, and they've got Harvey Barnes and James Maddison. And then you've got Kasper Schmeichel in net. He's been really solid. I think he's a pretty underrated keeper. He's 8th in the league in save percentage, and he has 65 saves on the season, so not too shabby from him at all. Brendan Rodgers, we know how great of a manager he is too. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. Putting my bias aside, I do think Leicester will get the win, probably 2 or 3-1. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, both of you bring up some good games to watch, but for me, the game I want to talk about is the West Ham versus Man City game. And I was able to look it up, and Man City won 2-1, and I think that's huge for them, because what I was going to say was, regardless of if this game had finished or not, is Man City needs to use this game as just a building game. I mean, I think they need to get Aguero back and playing at a high level that Aguero is normally playing at. He started this game, but he didn't score a goal. But that's honestly fine, as they got goal scoring from elsewhere. But for Man City, I mean, people forget that West Ham is a top 4 team. So you don't want to struggle against West Ham too much simply because you outmatch them in quality. It's kind of like the Bayern Munich and Lazio game I was talking about last week. If you're a team like Man City, I mean, across the pitch, the quality of your players is just outmatching West Ham. So they were able to do that today with the 2-1 victory. They were able to outclass them and just use this game as momentum. I mean, like I said, it's not really a game you want to struggle going into, or because if you take an L there, it ruins the momentum and the good form that you've been having for so long, and 2, it could alter you in the future if you lose a Premier League game, and then it could bleed into like future Premier League games and having confidence going forward. But when they went out there, got the 3 points, got the job done. So everything is fine for Manchester City as of right now. Now, we've talked a lot about various leagues in Europe and also the Champions League and the Europa League, but something we haven't really touched on yet is transfers. We saw a relatively pedestrian January transfer window with not too many pieces and players moving around, partially because the January transfer window isn't as impactful or as large, I guess you could say, as the summer transfer window, and also because of the pandemic, it limited a lot of the funds for various teams. So that's another reason why the transfer window wasn't as I guess you could say showful as the summer window is. But I'll ask you guys, and starting with Ryan, I want to hear your way too early predictions for the summer transfer window. What's one player we could see on the move this summer?
I'm going to Kylian Mbappe, and I think he's going to go to Real Madrid. It's been hinted at for a long time, and I think that's because it really makes sense for both sides. Kylian Mbappe gets to sort of legitimize himself a little bit more, because some people try to discredit his incredible goal scoring because saying it's in Ligue 1. They're saying that Ligue 1 is a farmers league, and to a degree they have a point. PSG does kind of run through that league every single year. But La Liga is widely considered one of, if not the most competitive league in the world. A lot of that shifts between FC Barcelona and Real Madrid most years, but this year we're seeing Atletico just absolutely take off. So Mbappe gets to show what he can do against some really high-level top competition in teams between Barcelona and Atletico. And more than that, Mbappe moves to a bigger club. PSG is obviously a huge club, but I think Real Madrid is probably the biggest club in the world. And this would give him a chance to further his personal brand. He would get more endorsements. He'd be recognized. He could be recognized as one of the greatest players of all time, because we've seen Cristiano Ronaldo, the old Ronaldo, Kaká. So many great players have played at Real Madrid, and it's kind of the club of legends. And going there would help solidify himself as one of those legends. And for Real, they need a winger. They need someone who's on that wing and can provide the pace and the skills needed. Hazard hasn't really been cutting it since his transfer. I hate to say it because he was so good in the Premier League, but he just hasn't been that great. And Vinicius, he's a great talent, but he's kind of just a speedy skiller right now. He hasn't developed a whole lot since he transferred to Real. And he's kind of looked like the same player for a few years now. And Mbappe, he's young and proven talent. We've seen what he's done in the World Cup, in the Champions League, and League for years now. This is not some guy that had a great league in the Brazilian league and had a great year in the Brazilian league and said, okay, let's get him to Real. We know Kylian Mbappe, and I think that it would make sense for both sides. And honestly, it wouldn't be that different from the Cristiano Ronaldo transfer back in 2009, I think, because Ronaldo did have a Ballon d'Or at that point, and Mbappe hasn't. But they're both just such great young wingers that I don't see it super different than that.
Yeah, so Ryan, you chose Real Madrid, so I'm going to go on the opposite side of the spectrum and talk about Barcelona, one of their outgoing players. I think this is finally the season that Lionel Messi leaves FC Barcelona. I know he's a homegrown kid. He's been there for pretty much his entire life since he was I believe 13 or 14 years old, but I think the writing is on the wall for Lionel Messi, and this is just about the time that he should go. I think that he has seen kind of what's been deteriorating around him. You let go of Suarez, and Suarez goes on to become the top goal scorer in La Liga. Neymar left a few seasons ago, and they haven't really replaced him. They brought in Ousmane Dembele, hasn't been as good as they thought. They brought in Coutinho, hasn't been as good as they thought. And it's just been also Griezmann. They brought in Griezmann. They thought that he was going to be the next Neymar. He was not. He's just kind of running around, kind of like a cat, just not really knowing what to do. And so I think that he's got to go. The Spanish media is trying to say that Messi has had a change of heart. Recently, right before the PSG game, everyone was saying how he had a change of heart and he was thinking about staying. He was probably 75% staying, 25% going. But I think that's just a last-ditch effort for him to stay. I don't think that he actually thinks that. I think that they're just trying to convince him, and I'm not buying it one bit. And especially the PSG loss, everyone knows that he's just far away the best player for Barcelona, and there's zero chance that he stays. And as for where he's going to go, I think Man City has to be the place where he goes. Man City is going to win the Premier League this season. I think that's all but over. They're probably going to win the Carabao Cup. They're playing Tottenham, and the way that Tottenham's playing right now, I don't see Tottenham even remotely trying to stop this City team. They're going to be the favorites for the Champions League and for the FA Cup as well. Now they're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup and the Champions League. They have one foot in the door in the quarterfinals as well. So they're just a very, very deep squad, a very, very good team. And they also have a former manager of Messi in Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola managed Barcelona for a few seasons. I believe it was 5, 6, maybe 7 seasons. And he brought the best out of Messi. He was there when Messi scored the 92 goals in a calendar season, which is utterly ridiculous. 92 goals in a 365-day calendar year when you only play, I believe it was 68 games. That's over a goal a game. He's absolutely ridiculous under the management of Pep Guardiola, and he just fits perfectly into the kind of offense that Pep Guardiola plays with the revolving wingers, and you kind of cut in, you do little ground crosses here and there, which plays right into his wheelhouse. He's perfect for that offense. And if he does go to City, it's going to bring a little bit of competition. I think they might have to sell on a few players, like maybe Bernardo Silva, who plays in the same position, or Mahrez, also same position, because Messi is not cheap. But I do think that the writing's on the wall for Messi. I think this is finally his time to go. And he can go on a free this year, too. So Barcelona can't even stand in his way and say, we're not selling you. He holds all the cards in his hand. And I think it's just about time that Messi leaves Catalonia.
Both transfers you guys said are absolutely scary to me. I mean, Mbappe to Real Madrid, that team is a team that's probably in the finals of the Champions League for the next 4 years to come. And then, I mean, how does Man City get any better? Oh, let's just add Messi to the squad. Oh, my goodness. Premier League the teams are going to be shaking in their absolute boots. So even to just think and fathom those kind of transfers are crazy to me. So good job picking those. But I'm going to have to go a little bit of a different route. I'm going to pick Jayden Sancho. I mean, this is a guy who's as old as Haaland. People forget that. But Jayden Sancho is also playing very, very well and at such a high level right now. He has almost as many goals as Haaland and more assists than Haaland does in the Bundesliga. And he's so young. I mean, he's, like I said, he's 20 years old. He's a really great winger, so much pace and also so much. He kind of reminds me of Robin with his ability to cut in from the wing and make things happen towards the middle of the pitch. And because he's English, I can see him going to an English team. I can't say he would go to Man City because I don't know how Man City would be able to afford a guy like Messi, unless it's a free transfer, which would be really absurd. Getting Messi on a free transfer and then getting one of the best young talents in the world in Jayden Sancho. Oh, man. But I doubt that will happen. I can see him going more to a team like Manchester United, a team that has a lot of money to spend and is trying to build players. And I know Manchester United usually does that. I mean, they did that with Rashford and they did it with Lingard. So they might be willing to do that with Jadon Sancho, and I think that would actually be a good fit for him playing with Bruno Fernandes, playing with Rashford and that team. So I could see him going to a Man U, but I mean, Rashford is so fun to watch. Whenever I turn on TV, I always see him doing some crazy stuff, and I just sit back and just admire his ability on the ball. It's really absurd. So speaking of players, I want to talk about something that we are all very passionate about. Soccer is a large sport. There's a lot of leagues, a lot of teams, a lot of different players to follow. But there are some players that stand out and some players that we have a little bit of a soft spot in our heart, just a little bit more than other players. So it begs the question, and Jimmy, I'll start with you. Who is your favorite player that is still playing today?
So I'm actually going to go back to my last segment where I was talking about Lionel Messi, and he's actually my favorite player in the world right now. Now, I'm a Man United fan. I probably shouldn't like Messi because he's beaten my team in the Champions League on 2 different occasions, the last 2 times that we've been in the Champions League final, but he is just phenomenal. Every time that you watch him, your jaw just hits the floor. He is absolutely poetry in motion, and that's not even an exaggeration. The way that he dribbles, the way that he passes, his vision of the game is absolutely second to none. I think he's the best player in the world and has been for a while, and I think that he's the best player of all time. I don't think anyone really comes close. I think Cristiano Ronaldo is kind of a close second, but I don't think that he has as big of an impact as Messi. Every time I just see Messi, he does something even more and more amazing. Even at the age of 33 years old, he's playing at an incredibly high level every single time that he touches the pitch. And he's the best dribbler ever. He's definitely the best passer I've ever seen. I'm just excited to see what Lionel Messi can do, hopefully on a different squad, because over the past few seasons, he's been kind of like, his name's been thrown around in the mud a little bit because he hasn't won a Champions League since the 2014-2015 season when he was, I believe, 28 years old. So he was been in the prime of his career, and he has not won a Champions League ever since being 28 years old. I just think that Lionel Messi is the best player of all time. He's my favorite player. I started watching soccer in 2014, and probably ever since 2016, he's become my favorite player. He's just absolutely incredible in every aspect of the game, and he represents the beautiful game at such a good level.
Louis, if you had asked me this last season, I probably would have gone with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, just because he was so electric for my club last year. But because he's kind of fallen off form a little bit, now I'm going to have to go with the big Polish lad up there in Bayern Munich, in Robert Lewandowski. He is just so good, man. He is a joy to watch. I mean, list off his stats. 57 all-purpose goals last year, 34 in the Bundesliga in 31 matches, 15 goals in 10 matches in the Champions League. Like, are you serious? Like, that is so insane to me. Like 1.5 goals per match. What even is that? And then this year he scored 26 goals in 21 matches in the Bundesliga and 4 goals in 5 matches in the Premier League. That's not even getting into his assist numbers or anything like that. His goals to game ratio is just insane, but like, he's just so good. It's not like he's faster than everyone or he's bigger than everyone or stronger than everyone. He's just a finesse god is how I would put it. When you're playing FIFA and you always complain that the RB button is broken because people always score finesse goals. Yeah, I would do that with Robert Lewandowski because he does that in real life every single game that he plays. So, he's just a joy to watch for me. I love Messi too. I'd say he's probably my favorite player of all time. But right now, I've got to go with Robert Lewandowski.
So this one was a bit challenging for me because I wanted to give the center back some love, Mats Hummels. And I do love my guy, Mats Hummels, big physical player. I enjoy watching him play defense. But in my heart of hearts, I have to go with Marco Reus. We're talking about a player that has been loyal to Borussia Dortmund for as long as I can remember. Not most, but some players from Borussia Dortmund will head over to Bayern to win a title and then come back to Borussia Dortmund, which is what Hummels did, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But Royce didn't do that. I mean, he stayed with Borussia Dortmund through and through injury, because I believe it was when he was on the cover of FIFA 2017. He hurt his knee and he was out for an extended period of time, but that didn't stop him. He came back. He still was able to play at a high level. I mean, I would hop on FIFA. I remember like FIFA 16, and I was younger, and I would do some crazy stuff with Marco Reus, like some skill moves, and then like hit a finesse. And then I would turn on the TV and watch him do it in real life, kind of like what you were saying about Lewandowski. And I would just be amazed. I was like, wait, I just did that in the game. How was he? Whatever. Like, honestly, I was just in awe watching him sometimes. And he was never really a flair player, I'd say, but he was just he was so good at being clinical in the midfield and also in front of net. I mean, he would make these passes that were De Bruyne-esque, I'll say, and he was so good on the ball too. So much agility as well. Just stayed true to his team. Really one of my favorite players to watch. And he also, like I said, with the injuries, he overcame adversity. He won 3 Bundesliga Player of the Year awards, and his most recent came in the 18-19 season. And that's pretty good because, if I'm not mistaken, he was 30 when he won that award. So for me, I love to see it. Love watching him play. Definitely my favorite player. But that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of PTV FC. For my panel, Ryan Johnston and Jimmy Bliss, I'm Louie Pasculli. Stay safe. Have a good day. See you next week.